Hi, I'm Dana Shoaf, editor of Civil War Times magazine, and I'm back with Melissa Winn, director of photography, and it's still drizzling on us, but that's okay. We've moved down to the Roulette Farm on the Antietam Battlefield, and it's one of my favorite places on the battlefield because when you come down the roulette lane, you really do feel like you're stepping back in time. Before we talk about the house, we're going to do a little bit of a pan around here. Melissa's going to pan to her left. We're on a slope approaching the house, of course, but off in the distance you're going to see the observation tower and even perhaps the Irish Brigade monument where we just were located on the sunken road, and you can see how the ground rises up to that position. And as she pans further to the left, you'll see the bank barn that is being restored by the National Park Service, and that barn was probably built by William Roulette, the homeowner here during the war. While we're looking at it, I want to really sing the praises of the National Park Service. These battlefields that we come to, of course, many of them are National Park Service property, and I think they do a great job as stewards of these sacred places. I know a lot of people that work for the Park Service, and they're really good people, and it's great to see this barn undergoing this restoration so that it'll be here for future generations. Bringing the camera back around, the roulette house behind me was built in stages, starting in the late 18th century and added on to in the early 19th century. The property here was probably cultivated as early as the 1750s. But by the time of the Battle of Antietam, it was owned by William Roulette, who was 38 years old, his wife Margaret, who was 31, and they had 5 children, 3 boys and 2 girls. There were 2 African Americans that also lived here, and they were free. They weren't slaves. They were paid servants. One was a woman named Nancy Camel, who was formerly a slave, but was paid when she was here. And there was a teenage boy that also worked here to help keep up this property. And William married into the family that owned the property, I should say, and that's how he came to own it in the 1850s. So let's take a walk up toward the house as Melissa pans to the right, and you can see the beautiful outbuildings down here. That's a stone combination spring house and summer kitchen where cooking was done in the hotter months. It might have also been one of the residences for perhaps the African Americans that worked here. I'm not sure. But you could just see when you're back here, it could be 1862. There's very few modern intrusions, and it's just an amazing place. And I wanted to stop and take a look at a couple features here. I'm going to move ahead. This stone addition, this is actually storage underneath here, but the top part of this is a bake oven, and you would access it from inside the house. There would be an opening into the fireplace, and you would build a fire inside this, rake out the hot coals, and that's where the bread was baked for the family. So this is a really upper-class farm family, really, to have this nice, large bake oven. We continue walking back around here, and you can see up on the hill the Muma farm, the Muma house, and the Muma barn. And I mentioned those in relation to the attack on the sunken road. Now, 10,000 Union soldiers crossed through Roulette's property during the battle. Can you imagine? 10,000 people thundering across your property during a major battle. And you can see the topography, as I talked about. You can see how the land drops down to a stream, and then it rises again, as you saw, toward the sunken road. So again, the topography of this battlefield is ever-changing. But one of the amusing incidents that happened during this tremendous carnage that occurs here, a couple of amusing incidents, actually. There were Confederate soldiers posted around the buildings of the Roulette Farm, and they were driven away when French's initial advance came through here. The Roulette family had been taken away to a church north of the battlefield, but William had come back to check on the property and was here when the battle broke out. And after the Confederates had been driven off, he came out of a cellar door, a Connecticut soldier remembered, and he yelled, he was waving his hat and yelling, "Give it to him, drive him, take anything on my place, only drive him, drive him." So William was a staunch Union supporter, and unfortunately for him, just about everything on his place will be taken. He will lose livestock and fencing and all sorts of belongings from inside the house as well. Another amusing incident occurs on this side of the house, and I'm going to show you a photograph taken when that same sunken road photograph was taken. again in my Frazanito book, you can see what I call the backside of the Roulette Farm, and if you look closely, you can see this white line of objects. Those are believed to be B-skeps that were overturned during the Union attack. A soldier in the 130th Pennsylvania that came through here by the name of Private John Hemington recalled, quote, "In the line of our advance, a number of beehives were overturned, and the little fellows resented the intrusion and did most unceremoniously charge upon us, accelerating our speed through the orchard toward the entrenched position of the enemy." So the B-skeps were basically in this area, and you can imagine 10,000 Union soldiers crushing across this property, and these bees are flying around. If these guys don't have enough to worry about, they're also getting stung by these upset and angry bees. After the battle, there were estimated 700 graves, temporary graves, on the Roulette Farm. Again, I can't imagine the devastation brought here to the farm families of this area. 700 graves on the Roulette Farm alone. And unfortunately for the Roulettes, in October, a month after the battle, their youngest daughter, Carrie, who is not yet 2 years old, I believe, will die of typhoid, undoubtedly brought upon by the diseases brought here by the soldiers and all the ill soldiers that are still around the area recuperating in the hospitals. But even after that, the family were very staunch Unionists. In October of 1865, they will have another son that is named Ulysses Sheridan Roulette. And of course, his first and middle name are for Ulysses S. Grant and Philip Sheridan, two prominent Union generals. So again, getting back to my earlier point I made at the Sunken Road, get off the park roads if you can. If you haven't walked back to the Roulette Farm, take the opportunity to do so. The buildings are not open to the public, but you can come back here and walk around and enjoy it. And there are a number of hiking trails that also take you right through the Roulette Farm. It's a beautiful place and has a timeless feel to it, and I highly recommend you come here. So again, we're going to temporarily sign off, and we'll be back with you later. There was a prescribed burn done here on the battlefield this week. We're not sure where it is, but we're going to go find it and show you what that looks like a little later on. So thanks for watching, and I hope you tune in again later to see Dana Shoaf and Melissa Winn of Civil War Times from the Antietam Battlefield.